You want to
I'll make a
pre-mandate.
motion that we do the 900 education opportunity fund out of part of the one-time dollars. It's up here. The first one, just start at the top. Yeah.
Not
Is there a
you did
second?
Something. I'm just talking to them.
Second.
And tell us again what this is going to be for. I mean, that sounds like a lot.
And I want to say that I'm open to adjustments on this downward. I'd like the 900, but see the 900 go to the foundation. But I'm certainly, I've talked to them. I'm sure they would be thrilled to have a number that's smaller than this if the board seems fit. But this would provide for it would provide an opportunity to enrich and provide a more robust educational opportunities for children that are not in the public system, homeschoolers, private schoolers, parochial schoolers. It will not pay for tuition. It would pay for things such as participation in sporting events, fees that might be paid for that, making it more feasible to do things like get involved with perhaps music lessons, art, uniforms,
Field trips. I think I heard her say field trips.
Field trips. I've got a comprehensive.
Do we have any idea, just from a practical standpoint, you know, so let's say I have a child in a private school and I've got a trombone to buy and, you know, $75 worth of field trips. How do I get that money?
Well,
She's talking about 10,000 kids.
yeah, well, I've talked to the foundation, and obviously we can give them guidelines as a board when we turn it, but they'll make the final decisions. But I think some of the parameters that were discussed were a minimum reimbursement of $250, a maximum reimbursement per year per child of $1,000, and they would have to provide receipts. And the foundation says they administer things like this already. And we already know that we're doing some things like this within our existing nonprofits, and even within the Department of Social Services we're doing some things. Did you know we pay for driver's ed for some of our... So I think this...
Are we sure this passes legal muster? I mean, you know, there's no state prohibition. I mean, I understand you're drawing analogies, so it's kind of like this, and it's kind of like the other thing that we already do. But, I mean, do we know for a fact that, you know, this notion is legal?
I believe that there's precedent for this, and I believe it does not put us in violation of any kind of state prohibition.
Now, what happens when a public school parent comes along and says, well, wait a minute, I understand what you're saying, but my trombone is also not covered, and yes, I can join the band, and yes, I get a band coach or instructor, I guess it'll be band instructor, but I don't get an instrument. Can I apply for the money?
And I'm going to pay for my own field trips, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're saying it would be for anybody, or for
Yeah.
just...
You just say, yeah, you have to pay your own company. Because it either is or isn't for non-public school students.
Okay, so how do we determine that? You're enrolled in a school? Any school?
Or in the recognized home schooling program. I thought I heard him say homeschooling.
Yes, they did.
And that seems to me perhaps a place where they could, you know, it could be put to some use.
And who's going to verify that?
Well, that's what the foundation.
They're used to doing things like that. They've got a lot of experience with this kind of thing. This is nothing that's outside of the norm for them.
But she said it's never been done before, so it's got to be.
Well, not this exact program, but it's certainly
They do payouts.
They do payouts, right?
To eligible people on funds for different things.
And there are already funds for even public school students already to do. through her foundation.
Some of the
Well, yeah, I mean, private people have set those
Yeah, just
foundations
private.
up.
Yeah, but not where,
Government.
yeah, but not where I can go to get my trombone paid for.
Well, I don't know the trombone is not an issue that I've discussed with
And
the
if you're talking
foundation.
about, if you're
But,
talking about $1,000.
I bought a lot of,
but
I
there-
bought a lot of band instruments in my day.
But there are things like science
And well, you should have.
science lab
I don't
equipment.
know why I'm at a disadvantage though, because I chose to use the public school if they don't provide the same thing, that's my question.
If you're talking about $1,000 a kid, I mean, that's only gonna cover 900 kids out of the 9,500 that are, part of that population.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah, most of them.
And they all may not
do
get the full
$1,000.
$1,000. They all may, maybe just a few hundred for some, but
Just for-
there were things such as science lab equipment,
But how's that gonna-
textbooks,
But,
study guides.
but if I've got to be over $250, is it the homeschool applying for it, or is it the individual parent?
The individual parent has to apply. This is to the student, not to the school.
But if I have to buy a science kit, I'm not going to spend $250.
Well, then you have to wait until you have a total of $250 before you can submit, because we didn't want to create an administrative burden for the foundation.
However, they could set that up however they want.
They can do whatever
makes
they
sense.
want. I mean, that's within their domain to administer how they deem best. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be trying to tell them how to administer this. What I know is that this is a program they feel has merit. We had two folks in here today that are attorneys. We've been around with them.
They feel any program they get to administer has merit. I've not seen them turn down a program on the surface unless it was not legal, so I'm not sure that that's a barometer of whether or not it's a good
No,
program.
you're right on that.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it a fact?
I mean, with all
that-
due
But
respect.
they wouldn't do it, but
A lot of
they
this-
look at it for the
But
legality of it.
that's what they do, and they are,
I
and they are.
don't fault them for that,
Isn't
but
it
it's
a
not
fact that
a...
a lot of these people homeschool or put their kids in private schools, I mean, do so because they don't want any government entanglement in their kids' education?
That-
Isn't this government entanglement?
No,
in
because-
kids'
No, a lot of people put their kids in non-public schools because they want a different experience for them. They may want more,
some don't.
more values-based education. They may want a more religious emphasis on their education than they can get in a public school. There's a whole lot of reasons that don't have to do with strictly with government. And well, I guess in a sense it's government entanglement in that I think the government requires that we not do certain things, we not teach religion, we not teach values, and that people who are looking for that are because they're paying for the public school system and the private school system.
I guess my only concern is the total funding relative to what we're, I mean, I have other concerns too, but relative to what we're doing. And if you take the total funding that we provide to ARC and to Change and to Target and to Flying Colors, it's not $900,000. And there may be some benefit to this, although I have heard not one outcry at all about this. I heard some people write us about vouchers. I've never had and I know a lot of homeschools, been supported by a lot of homeschools. I've never had one come to me and say, the government should be providing me any resource for any of these supplies, ever. I mean, now that's not to say it's not out there, but I would...
I've had many, many complaints from homeschoolers
So
that their children are not allowed to participate in the sports and the art and the, sort of extra things that the public school can provide, and they're not allowed in. And, you can't,
how could they?
your child, right, even with 6 kids, it's hard to have a football team,
Well,
So
I agree,
it's
but...
an experience that they don't get to participate in without spending money on it.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not against the idea of looking at alternative possibilities. I'd like to make a motion to amend to reduce the amount to $200,000.
I'll second.
would you consider, Mr. President, making a motion, change your amendment to reduce it to maybe 500,000?
I wouldn't, only because I could not look at Target, Change, or ARC and say we're going to spend more on this test of something that I have really not seen any need for than I'm going to spend on your organization.
That's tried and true.
Well, if you add them all up, does it add up? I don't know. They all do the same.
Well, I mean, that's where I think it should be. I mean, I think it's a test. I was more than willing to talk about the veterans' position, back off on that, and go with something more modest. I think this is a leap of faith, even at 200,000, to be honest with you, but I'm not wholly unwilling to take that leap of faith. I mean, it's just my amendment. You vote on it.
No, I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I
Go again.
appreciate the amendment. I'm wondering if we can do a little bit better on that. I think that it would be to give us enough valence that we can do something substantive with this.
Right.
Commissioner
That's like you
Frazier,
said.
Commissioner Roush, you any feedback?
I'm willing to be, I see it as an experiment that I'd be willing to try. But I think we need to put it at some kind of a level that, that, not that it becomes, that it's overfunded, but B, so it's also not, so it's not underfunded.
What do you think?
I think I would go for 500 as something in between. But I'd like to give it a try, see what happens. If we don't, if it doesn't get used or it doesn't get used right, we never have to put another dollar in.
Right.
I hate to be melodramatic, but we really argued about $50,000, $57,000 after the VFW, the Disabled American Veterans, and the American Legion came out and said this is the single biggest need we have for veterans. And we're talking about a number 10 times that for something that has never been a
I
demonstrated
didn't
need.
argue one bit about that position.
Yeah, you did. You
Give
called
me
me.
a break.
No, that's not true.
It's part-time.
We brought it back to part-time at your suggestion. That's not true. And that was at a tenth of the number you're suggesting.
It was a compromise between what was proposed and what was opposed.
Okay. Well,
And that's what the 500 is, as far as I could see.
all right. Well, I think I'm just gonna vote on the amended at 200. I can't see going more than 200, but regardless of where it may end up. Anything else on the amended? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we funded it in the spirit of trying to get unanimity of the board on this, because I think this would be something that would reflect positively on all of us across the state and across the country. I'm going to recommend a lower number than what Commissioner Roush recommended. I'm going to suggest that we move forward with a pilot of this program at $400,000.
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? No.
Okay.
All right.
It's 5 after Mr. Rothschild.